Yo, what is up, guys? I'm bringing you a brand new video, and today we're talking about the best in slot crystals and lightstones for PvE and PvP in Black Desert Online. We're going to start off with the starting tier of crystals, the basic crystals you should get as a brand new player, and then we're going to graduate grind spots all the way up to the very end game and things you should consider along the way. So let's start off with the most basic of crystals. That would be something like this. These are the cheapest crystals you can get in order to get the most amount of monster AP. And usually the ones that you're going to start off with is going to be things like Magic Crystal of Infinity Critical Hit. Super cheap, super easy access. A Girin's tier, also super cheap, super easy to get. You've also got stuff like Crystal Precise Destruction, as well as the Unyielding Spirits and Dog Patience Crystals. These are very low cost to performance ratio. Then we move into kind of slightly more expensive and maybe lower performance compared to what we just talked about. You've got your combined Magic Crystal Macalods and your Akarods, and then things like your Bon Addises. And then from there, you've got your Dark Red Fang Valors. So these culmination of crystals is the cheapest you can get for relevant monster damage, and something you could consider starting out with when you don't have a lot of money as a brand new player. Just to kind of put in, slot in, and just have. Now, you probably won't have Karazad accessories until a little bit later, but getting yourself some Juan Dawn AP crystals could also be some nice filler, because it's not really worth upgrading to the Djinns right away, because you're going to get them for free down the line if you're gearing efficiently and buying Pendeberekas to then exchange for Karazads. You end up getting those Djinns for free. So let's move into the best overall Lightstone setups. Good starters, watch your back. 400 million silver to get 24 hidden AP is probably a very extremely good value. You also get back attack damage modifier, so it ends up being really good value there. You will lose some damage reduction. If this is concerning to you, then you could also go for something cheap like the Savage setup. This is plus 17 AP and costs even less money. So this is like super basic. And then if you wanted to get maybe some of that special attack modifier back, you could also consider the Skillmaster setup. Slightly less hidden AP by 7, but you also get 2.5% extra special attack damage. So anytime you're back attacking or critical hitting, which you can do simultaneously, it actually ends up being better than that Savage setup in most cases, and it also surpasses AP caps of grind spots. So if you have say a 1100 AP and their cap is 1100 AP, you're going to do much better with Skillmaster compared to, say, that Savage setup, because that 7 AP is not really going to be performing for you. So that's something to consider, as well as maybe Skillmaster if you're really concerned. But Watch Your Back is just a generally great setup for cheap. If you want the overall best Lightstone set, that, like, if I had to choose one Lightstone set and I never got to have another one ever, then All Out Attack is probably the most universally best. It gives a large amount of hidden AP plus the critical hit damage, but you do lose some DR, just like with Watch Your Back, but this is more expensive. You're looking at about 2.3 billion silver to get it, compared to this is like 400 million. So that's why this is best to start off with. But if you really want to just universally like carry you all the way to, say, a Dawnea region, then All Out Attack is not a bad option if you wanted to save up for it. But I wouldn't say it's necessary. This is probably what I would run. Now, moving on into the better crystals, as you start to, say, get to Hex Sanctuary and start to get a little bit more geared, what is the overall best damage that you should be getting? So this right here is the base high-end damage crystal build with no resistances whatsoever. And this is just the universally just high damage, essentially. In terms of order of crystals you should be upgrading from those base crystals, you still have your gear, and this is super endgame. And then from there, Corrupteds are good value. You get an extra 2% extra critical hit damage, plus another 4 total AP by the time you have 2 of them slotted in. And they're only about 300 million silver each. Then from there, buying yourself some Brutal Decimations. These give you 7 AP against monsters, plus the 1% back attack damage for 1 billion. So they end up being actually quite good. And then, of course, Rebelliouses. These here give you 10 total effective AP each. And they are 1.7 billion, but they're really good. After that, the next crystals to upgrade would be like your Akarods. So this gives you, the Void Akarods gives you extra AP against monsters plus 9, plus attack cast speed plus 1%. And then there's the Void Destructions, which essentially upgrades your old ones by another couple of monster AP. But these crystals here, the ones that I'm showing you, Rebelliouses, the Decimation, Girin, and the 2 voids plus the corrupteds. These right here are your staple crystals that you will typically not be changing no matter what. Like those just stay in every single PvE build no matter what. So once your crystals look like this, you just sort of start editing them, starting with your macalods based on what content you're doing. So let's say that you decide, oh, I want to go try out Dekia Ash Forest, and now you need, say, knockdown / bound resistance. Well, you would take out 2 macalods, and then from there, you would spec in knockdown and bound resistance. So, for example, adamantines, like this. That's what you would normally do, is you would just start taking out your macalods. Something else to consider as well is that 2 macalods are representative of 6 total AP, because you're gaining 3 AP each crystal for a total of 6, plus the 2 set effect, which is 5. The stamina is usually not a consideration. The accuracy doesn't matter. The combat XP is whatever. So every 2 macalods is ultimately 6 AP. And that means that you can say functionally, let's say that you're grinding Ash Forest and you decide, wow, I'm taking a lot of damage here. It's really not that bad to put in, say, something like a Stalwart Fortitude, because it's 5 extra AP against monsters, and it gives you monster damage reduction plus 5, and then you can spec in something like, say, a Power Crystal, which now you've effectively lost 1 total AP, but you've gained 5 monster damage reduction. So that's something you can also consider. But macalods are just very expensive for what they give. They're only 6 AP per every 2 of them, and there's options to give you 5 AP plus something else with these types of functional crystals like the Fortitudes. So that's something you consider as well. But this is very, very normal. This is something that I would run in an endgame grind at, say, Zephyros, because this is something with knockdown bound. Let's say I'm going to Tinnabaum Castle. Well, similarly, you would have your stun, stiff, freezing if you were to go to Nymphomare, and then if you were to go to Tinnabaum, you got your... Is there knockdown bound? Is there floating here? I don't know if I have any float resist. Yeah, some floating, knockback and floating, right? It's like this is something that you would consider just swapping out your resistances as needed based on the grind spot. So that's the basics. Now let's go and talk about, say, boss shrine content. Well, with boss shrine content, max damage is always best, so your base setup. But now instead of your corrupteds, you would consider doing your darkness crystals. Darkness crystals are effectively just like corrupteds, except they give you back attack modifiers of a total of 24% extra back attack extra damage, and back attacks typically scale harder because a back attack modifier is lower than a critical hit modifier, which means you're gaining more percentage as a whole, but then you're also just gaining more percentage because your crystals themselves are 12% extra attack damage per crystal for 24 extra back attack compared to, say, 22% extra crit. So overall, darknesses would be best in slot for boss shrine content, and this is typically what I'm running in a boss shrine content setup. This would also be something that I would be running if I was to go do any type of group black shrine boss, solo black shrine boss, if you're killing a rift, even if you're going and doing, say, any of the Ataraxian dungeon, anywhere where there's single targets and you just need the maximum amount of damage, you're typically going to be running this exact setup with the 4 macalods, because you won't really need the resistances. So that's kind of the base setup for that. And crystals for PvE, it's honestly really it. You could min-max a little bit more. So say if you really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of things, and you wanted to go to, say, let's say you're doing Deposed Crown Prince Boss Blitz Shrine, or you're going and doing the solo version of the, what the heck is this called? Bamboo Legion. These are technically humans. So if you're fighting humans, now if you're going into species damage here, this would be the highest damage species setup that you typically could have. So what you're doing is you still have your corrupteds and you still have your void Akarods, but then of course your rebelliouses, right? You could also swap these corrupteds potentially for the back attack ones, but I just find Bamboo and Prince are a little hectic to always get back attacks, so that's why I do Corrupteds. But Rebellious Corrupted, you got your Void Rods, you got your Destructions, you got your Decimation still. But then because they're human species, 10 extra AP against humans would be better than the 6 AP that the Macrolods give, right? That's a total of 20 extra damage to that monster compared to 6 if I was to have the Macrolods. So that's why I do Vipers. Similarly here, we've got 8, right? So that's a total of 16 compared to 11 of having 2 Macrolods, right? So ultimately, it ends up just being a little bit better to spec that in. And then, of course, you've got the 7 AP plus the attack speed compared to that of, say, a Stalwart Fortitude, which gives only 5 total AP. So, this is some min-maxing that you could consider for PvE against certain species types. But this is only really for humans. There's not really another type of species crystal like demi-humans, for example. This would only be something if you're fighting specifically human-based mobs. Now let's talk about the Lightstones that you would be using for, say, min-maxing certain grinds. So we already talked about all-out attack, watch your back, very universally good. But once you start reaching the AP cap of a certain grind spot, so if you don't know if you're at the AP cap of a spot, it's pretty easy to tell. If you just click on the actual grind spot itself, and let's say we'll go to Decky Evasion, Hystria, we're going to click on the stat display, or we're going to click on the view gear stats button. It's going to tell you that the effective limit is 1130, and only 5% of the excess is applied. This 5% is universal across all grind spots, and that 5% means that if you were to gain, say, 1230 AP, that extra 100 AP that you have over this limit is only 5% effective. So it's like being 1135, because that 100 gets truncated down to only 5 instead of the full 100. So it's barely worth it to be building big AP past the limits of whatever you're grinding at. So that means that your Lightstones are going to be changing to be tailored to where you're grinding. So for example, something like Vicious Shadows, this would be very solidly good at a place like Darkseeker's Retreat, because at Darkseeker's Retreat, you're getting a lot of back attack damage against the big guys, plus you're also getting critical hit damage. This extra total of 9% modifier is the most important part when you're past that AP cap, because now you're doing much more back attacks, critical hit damage. That those are going to make you feel like you're hitting harder on those monsters. Additionally, you've also got stuff like target openings. This is giving you critical hit damage plus 6%. And this is, slightly less than this, and you obviously don't get the back attack damage. But sometimes the speed in which you're grinding is related to how fast the last mob dies. And the last mob is typically the one that's not getting back attacked, right? It's the one that's kind of the stray mob on the outside. So say you're grinding somewhere like Tungrad Ruins, where you can't guarantee a back attack on every single mob in each pack, you'd probably prefer target openings over Vicious Shadows, because you're not moving to the next pack until that last mob is dead. So it doesn't matter how fast you kill the first mob, it matters how fast you kill all the mobs. So that's why target openings might be better for, say, a place like Tungrad Ruins. So that would be something that I would consider. And then, of course, whenever you go into the Edonia, and let's say that you're trying to get to the next best grind spot, the Wild Edonia is a really, really good pick, because this helps you get to that bracket. But once you get to that AP bracket, you then, like if you're below that number, right? So that 1130 example that I gave, let's say you're trying to get to Zephyros, and that's 2010 AP. This is really good to reach that 2010 mark. But as soon as you start reaching, say, 2016, all of a sudden it becomes way better to be using something like All Out Attack, because you're still going to be at that 2010, because you're dropping your AP by only 6, but you're now gaining the critical hit damage, which is helping you surpass that 5% cap much better, right? So this is good to get your foot in the door to get to a grind spot in Edonia, but it's not going to be best in slot once you are surpassing the AP threshold of whatever the cap is of the spot you're looking at. Similarly for demi-humans, in in the example of Darkseekers and Tungad Ruins, once again, if you're really struggling to reach that initial limit of, say, the 1495 of DSR, for example, well, once again, you can help yourself by getting this Lightstone set effect. But once you start hitting that 1500 range, right, 1550, like once you're getting higher and higher, this is now no longer useful in any way, and it's better to get the extra special attack, extra damage. So that's pretty much it when it comes to Lightstones. It's not super complicated. It's basically you use things like the Wild if you're really struggling to get to AP threshold, the final AP cap of that spot. And then from there, you start tailoring it through, oh, I'm getting a lot of back attacks, so therefore I should be doing Vicious Shadows, or I'm not getting a lot of back attacks, I should be doing target openings. And then, of course, if you're struggling to reach the cap and you're just like barely reaching the cap, but you want a little extra damage, you can always do Watch Your Back and All Out Attack. So that's basically it when it comes to Lightstones. Now, let's move on to the PvP section here. So PvP-wise, you've got some options and you got some non-negotiables. So let's start off with standard PvP crystals, the overall just creme de la creme. This right here is the most basic PvP setup that you could possibly imagine. I don't personally think it's worth running hardly much more than a variation of this in most situations. The standard crystals that you really want to have in PvP is going to be stuff like your Glorious Alucuses. It gives you extra AP against humans. It gives you attack cast speed, really, really good. Then your RBF Vipers, this gives 10 AP again, or I guess the adventure damage is the one we're looking at here in PvP. So we're +7 to adventures, plus the attack speed. Then +10 to adventures for the Vipers. Then from there, you can move on to stuff like the Corrupteds. Really good extra damage, all AP, critical hit, extra damage, really, really good. And then you've got things like your Karmes, which give another +8 to adventures. So that's also very good. And then you've got your Red Spirit Crystals, which give a total of 8 AP each plus the HP. So that's also like on slightly better than the Karmes themselves. And then from there, like you've got your Red Fang Valor, but now you're just kind of adding filler. If you were to not have your Bitternesses, you would basically like be adding in, say, Macalods here. But once again, Macalods are really only giving you a total of 11 AP per 2 of them. And you're trading out 20 DR. And you're trading out, in this situation, 14 DR. So what you're losing, and also, like, these armors can also be swapped for HP crystals, too. So say that you're, like, you know, if you don't want the armors, you could also put in the HPs. But I feel as if this is just... The Macalods are not good value. Unless you're a ranged class, or a class that never has to go in to, like, trade damage in melee range, it's just oftentimes not worth running the Macalods, in my opinion. So, like, it's exclusively Macalods are for Deadeyes, or they're for Archers and Rangers. Any other class that has any sort of melee, I really don't think that you should be running full blast all the time. And then, of course, Heite's tier, just 10 DR is just so good. Plus the HP, it's just better statted than the Bongwings tier. Bongwings only giving you small accuracy, little bit of AP, you know, some DR, less HP, right? It's just, you're just going for the better stats here with the Heite. So I feel as if it's just simply just a better PvE or PvP crystal. Now let's talk about, say, customization of this build. So something that I often do is, let's say that I am fighting an evasion target. The sweet spot for evasion is probably 2 accuracy crystals. So 2 of these is typically enough, but sometimes you might need 3. Now you start getting into really high-end gear score required to be able to run 3, and even to be able to run 4 is even crazier. Like, we're talking, you're just trying to kill a DP meme at this point, someone who's probably not even able to kill you. But 2 is a good balance, and 3 is starting to get overkill. Similarly, let's say that you want to gain tankiness. So if you're running a DR setup, once again, if you've got full AP, putting in one damage reduction crystal, this feels very tanky. If you're playing like a warrior, if you're playing a Valkyrie, if you're playing a Zerker, 1 to 2 of these hands are very, very good in this exact same crystal setup. So that's something that, for example, in like a duel, like if I go to my duel setup, you can see that my crystals don't look much different, but I've got one additional DR, and I've also opted to have some additional HP. So what did I remove? If I go here, yeah, you can see that I've removed the corrupted, so I don't lose the extra 4 DR, but I gain the extra 1700 HP. So that's what I've essentially opted for here. But this is something that I would normally run in like a dual-based setup. If you are going to be running like, here's like a large accuracy setup here. This right here is something if I just really need to kill like a super evasion meme and I just want the most amount of damage possible without any like stats, like I'm just trying to kill like a shy or something like that. This is something that you might run. You would put in the Macalods, you would put in the Bongwang tier at this point, but this is something that's obviously just an int build. It's not even a practical build to run unless, once again, you're like a Deadeye or an Archer or Ranger. Then, in terms of just max AP, this is another meme build. Anytime you have Macalods in your build, I feel like it's a complete meme build, plus the Bongwang. Like, this is just if I want to just do as much damage as possible. I want to do like an 1100 AP build and just do big blast damage. But these are just things that I don't typically run. I'm always running this setup. I'm always running this setup when I'm PvPing. And then that's just what I do for Uncapped. And then, of course, I sort of move the accuracy crystals around here if need be. In terms of capped content, this right here is what I would run in a capped node war. So these two crystal slots, these right here, I would be replacing my Karazad accessories here with these acetals. And so these slots end up becoming grayed out. And then I've got the BSR crystals to let me get more BSR cap. And then from here, these HPs help me reach the 1100 AP or 11,000 HP cap. I have some jump height here just because I don't know what else to put. Then I've got Corrupteds, the Decimations, the Glorious Akarods, the Glorious Alukas, the HP recovery on hits, the Girins tier, and then the Rebellious just for a little bit of HP. But the reason you choose these in Node War is because of the percentage modifiers. They will go past that of of the actual AP cap of the grind spot. So for example, you've got Corrupteds, which are giving 22% critical hit damage. You got back attack damage. You've got the attack speed. You got the attack speed, HP recovery on hit, right? These are all stats that go above and beyond those HP limitations. And then, of course, the all special attack extra damage on the Girins tier as well, which is helping go past stats. Then from there, the filler crystals, the ones that really don't provide a lot. HP just kind of helps reach 11,000 sometimes for some classes if you don't have shy buffs. The jump height, just in case you got to get up some terrain maybe, and then the Rebellious. In terms of cap siege, I do a little bit of a different approach. I go for as much HP as physically possible. So I've got Bond Kobe's, because HP is uncapped in siege. So I got Bond Kobe's, Rebelliouses, I've got the Gloriouses, I got 4 Whoms, I've got the Kobalinus for the HP, I've got 1 HP recovery, 2 HP recoveries actually on hit, 2 Corrupteds, and then the Girin. So that's what I do for cap siege. And then something that you could run if you're an evasion player is something like this. This is like a standard evasion build. I don't think that this is worth editing in any kind of way. So you've got your ultimate Whoms. Very good because it gives DR and evasion and HP. And you've got your Bitternesses, which is DR and evasion. Super good. You've got your Harfias, which gives you 40 total evasion. Then you've got your damage from your Vipers and your Lucases. You've got your critical hit damage from your Corrupteds. You've got 1 Red Spirit and then a Hate. This is a very normal evasion setup. And then something I'm in the process of, I don't have it yet, is adding in a hand evasion crystal. And up to 1 is pretty normal for like a bruiser evasion build. But, you know, getting into more tankier builds, like a DP meme, we can talk about that in a sec here. But that's basically what you would run as an evasion player. Now let's take a look at the artifacts and Lightstone setups that you would be running. So if you're an Evasion player, there's really only one setup you're running, or two, but this is the one that I choose. You've got the Waves and the Iron Walls. So this is Steel Shield. It gives you a really, really good set effect. Where is this at? So it gives me not only the evasion from the waves, but then also the like a total of 38 evasion. And then you also get 22 DR. So there is one other set effect, which is a little bit less DR. And I think it's like one more evasion, but it gives you a little bit of HP. Like, technically, that one can be really good if you have a low HP class, but I find that this one is just overall the best. Steel Shield, I think, is better for pretty much all cases when you're building this tanky. So that's what I choose, plus the evasion artifacts. And then if you're a DR player, or any player for that matter, I think that these are just non-negotiables. 4 Iron Walls with the DR artifacts are just so freaking good. I highly recommend that every single person, other than, once again, Deadeyes or Archers or Rangers, should be running anything other than just 4 Iron Walls. You can have something like this, which is like the Blights, the extra AP against humans, or something like all-out attack even. But quite frankly, I just don't think that the trade-off is worthwhile. Because if you look at this, you're effectively getting, what is it? 12, 18, 30 extra AP against adventurers. But you're sacrificing a total of 38 DR. So, because the way that the change to AP and DR relationship works is they're very close to 1-to-1 or basically 1-to-1, it means that you're just losing, like in a trade, in a vacuum, right? In a vacuum, not an actual vacuum, but like let's say that you were to look at this in a simulation, that extra 8 DR is going to help you outtrade somebody. It's going to help, like if somebody is running Iron Walls versus the human setup, the Iron Walls will win more times than the human setup. So you're just kind of playing the odds here that like you're just going for more stats in general. So the reason why the wild human has kind of like fallen out of fashion, especially just lately, is large in part to the fact that the iridescent stone cannot be amplified. And because of that, it's made the Iron Wall setup a little bit more attractive because you can amplify 4 of your light stones rather than only 3. So it just kind of feels like this has sort of lost its edge to a point where I never really run this. Like, I know that if I'm running this, I'm inting most of the time, and that's similarly like if I'm just pairing it to this build right here. I know that I'm inting, and I know that I just want to do a big bunch of damage, and I don't really care about how efficient it is. I just want to have fun. So don't recommend it for anything else other than just purely fun. But yeah, you're just running Iron Walls, and that's it for pretty much everybody. But yeah, this one ended up being a lot longer of a video than I expected it to be. I hope that you guys really enjoyed it. I really appreciate you guys for watching the whole way. If you guys would like to subscribe, I would appreciate that a lot. Something else to mention as well is that if you guys are buying ACOIN or Pearls from now until February the 5th, there is an event going on where you can use my creator code CHOICE, and that will directly support me every time you buy ACOIN. And I would really appreciate if you used my code. It helps me continue to be a full-time content creator, and it also helps me fund projects like the BDO Companion app. If you guys don't know what that is, it's my automatic grind tracker and future gear path bot that's going to teach you what's your next step in gearing. If you want more information about that, you can always click the Discord link below in the bio of this video to check out the Discord. And yeah, that's basically it, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Peace.